Hey guys, if you don't know me, my name is Nick, otherwise known as NCI Resale on Instagram and Poshmark and eBay and just about any other place on the internet that you could find me. And I am a full-time reseller as well as a full-time college student at the University of Minnesota, which is fun, especially right now when really I'm a full-time college student in my living room. But that is besides the point. On top of all of those other things, I am also very much into fashion and fashion trends. Fashion is something that I personally use to express myself and I love with all of my heart. You probably can't tell right now because I'm wearing a plain black sweater, but just take my word for it. My degree is in fashion merchandising and trend forecasting, and so I go to school basically for fashion trends and a lot of that. And so this is really up my alley, but this is one of my most requested videos from all sorts of people because before everything else, I am also young. I am 20, I am part of Gen Z, and I very much so have TikTok, and I do not think people understand the impact that TikTok is having on fashion trends and will continue to have on fashion trends for years to come. And so this video is going to be me telling you 10 huge fashion trends that are coming about from Gen Z and young millennials, a lot from TikTok influencers on other social media platforms, and all around that kind of whole bubble, and how these trends are influencing major fashion trends in the world of fashion. So now that I've rambled for 2 minutes, I have my notes on my iPad here of all 10 things, and so we will just get into it as we go along. I'm going to pop up inspiration and, images kind of to explain what I'm talking about to your right, to my left. So before I get into these, I want to mention a couple huge influential people in fashion right now. Some names that everybody should know. Emma Chamberlain. Basically, this girl determines the trends of every female between the ages of 14 and 25 right now. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but really she's a huge influential person in fashion at this moment in time. Gigi and Bella Hadid, both of them, huge. They've been huge. They stay huge. People love them. And there's tons of other smaller, but you know what I mean. Smaller influencers all over that are really great if you can just kind of dig into that world and look. But the first trend that I want to talk about is something that is very utilitarian in nature, but has become so popular, and that is the puffer jacket. When I say puffer jackets, I mean like big puffer jackets, down puffer jackets. And there are a couple in particular that I will get into in a minute, but I just kind of want to reiterate, this is something that, has been used and popularized over time. Everybody has a North Face puffer, but never really have I thought of them as a fashion statement or outerwear fashion statement, but here it is, and here they are to stay. I mean, some of the most popular ones are the Aritzia puffer jackets, the North Face puffer jackets, the classic puffer. Gucci and North Face just did a big collaboration. It's ongoing right now. That sold out everywhere. And the particular one that you need to be on the lookout for is the brown North Face down puffer jacket. Now there's two. There's the regular just puffy down one, and then there's also the cross quilted one, but the brown ones, and they were worn both by Bella Hadid and Emma Chamberlain, like I talked about before. Huge. If you can find a brown North Face puffer jacket, you can sell it for literally $200 plus right now, because they've sold out everywhere, because every person wants a brown North Face puffer jacket. But that is kind of the subcategory of puffer jackets in every different shape, color, long, short, cropped, floor length, are all big right now, especially in the winter. And so that is trend number one. Number two, some of you might want to come at me for this one, but whatever. It is Y2K style. And for those unfamiliar, Y2K, year 2000, this is the style of the early 2000s. And now I'm going to tell you something that might send some of you into fight or flight, but I was born in the year 2000. I was a Y2K baby, And a lot of people have a hard time comprehending that somebody who's born in the year 2000 is now a whole 20-year-old adult. But alas, it is true. This era was characterized, like, think Britney Spears red carpet 2004, like the Pussycat Dolls, like all of those like girl groups with like the low-rise flare jeans and the silk camisole tank tops and the cardigans with the fur on the ends and like kitten heels and square toe heel. Like all of these things are coming back, and they are coming back fast. I think some of the biggest items I've seen exploding in popularity currently are cardigans that have faux fur on them. There's a brand right now that is super popular. It's sold at Urban Outfitters and places similar, but it's really up and coming. It's called House of Sunny, and they have this cardigan right now that is like lime green, and it has this like faux fur cuffs and whatever, and I just saw it, and I'm like, this is the 2000s. And of course, it's sold out everywhere because everybody wants it. Some other things are like cardigan tank top matching sets are huge, or just wearing cardigans as a top with nothing under it, just tied as kind of like a crop top kind of deal is really popular. Faux fur, just in general. I would not be surprised if we see faux fur vests come back like they were in the early 2000s. Another thing that I refuse to acknowledge is that low-rise jeans are kind of becoming popular again. Now, I don't think, this is a side tidbit of information, I don't think high-waisted jeans are going anywhere. I think they are becoming a new classic item. In fashion theory, there's this thing called the pendulum swing theory, and that when you're talking about that, that basically means that in fashion over time, what is popular swings from extreme to extreme. That's why you saw, you know, in the early to mid 2000s, low rise everything, you know, like 2-inch front rise, to in, you know, the mid 2016, 2017, high rise everything, like ultra high rise was the thing. But I think so many people got back into ultra high rise and love it so much that they are not going to give it up. And I think it's becoming what people in the fashion industry consider a classic, something that is immune to fashion theory, is immune to swinging back and forth. There's a lot of different fashion theory. Let me know if you want a video on fashion theory. Again, half my degree is about fashion theory, and it's something that I know a lot about and I find really interesting. So, you know, drop me a comment below if that's something you're interested in. But anyway, think about what people wore in the early 2000s, and that is coming back fast. My third trend, sorry, I talk with my hands. My third trend that I want to talk about is very much related to the early 2000s and the late 90s, because these were popular then, but they are also very popular now. And it is baguette bags and pouchettes, or pochettes, or, you know, however you want to pronounce it. These style of handbags are very much in right now. And a lot of it has to do with Prada. Well, Prada kind of saw it was coming back in, and so they made the reissue 90s nylon bag. It's called the reissue. It is their little nylon bag, and it is the it bag of this year. Like, anybody who's anybody has this bag. Some other ones that are huge right now, the Gucci Jackie, which again has been around for forever. It's just this little shoulder bag, like literally the Gucci Jackie, which is named after Jackie Kennedy. Has been around since the 60s. The Louis Vuitton, just the classic pochette with the monogram. The Fendi Baguette bag with the Zucca print, you know, the Fs. Of course, the Chanel boy bag is as popular as ever. You know, these kind of smaller shoulder bags that are just big enough to fit what you need in them. That is what is very popular right now. So my number 4 one, again, there's a pattern here. This one goes directly back to Miss Emma Chamberlain. One day, she, in one of her pictures, was wearing a Spell Out Gap sweatshirt from the 90s. And you might think, like, Spell Out Gap is something that I haven't seen since, like, 1997. And it is back. It is more popular than ever. After Emma Chamberlain made her Spell Out Gap appearance, Gen Z sold out the Gap website of everything Spell Out Gap. It has become super in demand. I saw a girl at a thrift store with 2 Spell Out Gap hoodies, and sis was so happy. She probably was 16 years old, and she was basically in tears because she found these Gap hoodies and was so excited. And so I predict that that is not going to go away, at least for a while. And so if you see Spell Out Gap hoodies or crew necks, definitely pick them up. And that goes for like Spell Out a lot of things. Like Spell Out Tommy Hilfiger is still popular. Spell Out like vintage Banana Republic, vintage, like all of these like vintage brands that were really popular in the 90s. And a lot of them are still around today if you can find the Spell Out stuff. And for Gap, even like the modern Spell Out stuff is gonna do well right now too. So that is that one. My number 5 trend is platform shoes and boots. And this kind of has a range. So one of the most popular shoes of the last, I'm going to say year and a half, has been the Doc Marten Jaden boot, which is this high top Doc Marten, classic Doc Marten. I don't think Doc Martens ever go out of style. They're one of my favorite shoes, but this particular Doc Marten has the thick sole platform, and then it has the lace-up style. And this boot is so hard to get. It sells out all the time, and it's you can't find it for less than retail anywhere. But people love these boots. They're notoriously awful to break in, but once you break them in, they're super comfortable. Along that line, Doc Martens has a bunch of other styles that are really popular as well. There's the platform Chelsea boot right now, which I almost bought but didn't. And there's also the platform, like it's called the quad platform, like Oxford, which is like the low top version, which I actually just bought. Here's my pair of Doc Marten platforms that I just bought myself. I actually got these for a steal of a deal on Poshmark for $60. I kind of took a gamble because it was a new closet that only had these listed, and they were only listed with one stock picture and no other pictures. And they aren't like the lace-up style. They have this zipper, which I wasn't sure if I liked or not, but now that I own them, I actually really like them. And I only paid $60 for these, which may seem like a lot for you. Well, they were brand new. They came in the box new with tags, with the DSW receipt in them still. So I got a really good deal on this pair of shoes that's really hard to get. And so Doc Marten platforms aren't the only platforms right now. All of the like super like think Spice Girls platforms. You can get platforms from brands like Psycho Bunny and Dolls Kill. Free People has some really great platforms. Just platform boots and shoes and Mary Janes and all of those in general are really big right now. My next trend has been around for a while. Again, it's not going anywhere. It is tennis skirts. Pleated tennis skirts, pleated like, you know, I'm going to call them schoolgirl skirts with like the knife pleats. Those are incredibly popular right now. There is a Nike tennis skirt right now that if you can find, I'll pop a picture of it right here. They're selling for like $300 on Depop because nobody can get it. Nobody can get their hands on it. This is going to be like a side note right here. Depop is the Gen Z resale platform. People love Depop. People are obsessed with Depop. I don't sell on Depop. I just don't like it. I am a Poshmark, eBay, Instagram person. More power to the people who can be successful on Depop. But there is a audience there. There are people there who buy stuff. It's not my preference, but if you're looking to expand, there is huge room for expansion on Depop if you feel so inclined. People really like wearing these tennis skirts with oversized crew neck sweatshirts. This is later on my list, but I might as well just go right for it. Collegiate sweatshirts, vintage collegiate sweatshirts of any college. Literally, it does not matter the college on them. Pick them up. You may think, well, only somebody from this college will buy this. No, I go to the University of Minnesota, and I just saw my friend last week, and she rolled up wearing a Purdue sweatshirt, a vintage Purdue sweatshirt. We go to the University of Minnesota, not Purdue, but she was like, I thought this was so cute, and it's pretty, look at this vintage sweatshirt. And I'm like, you literally go to the University of Minnesota and own like 9 different U of M sweatshirts. Like, I have so many U of M sweatshirts, but nonetheless, she was wearing a Purdue sweatshirt because she found it and bought it on Depop and liked it. So just goes to show there is a market for vintage, oversized collegiate sweatshirts of all different universities, big, small, I don't care. Just pick them up if you see them. And so then I'm going to go into my next trend is sneakers. The sneakerhead, I'm going to call it a movement. Sneakerhead, sneaker obsessed people has only expanded in the last year, 2 years. I don't know. What used to be kind of just like this like cult of people has now expanded to this like everyday person who is making sneaker collections. And I know most people aren't going to be able to find or source really sought after sneakers, but you never know. I found a pair of Jordan 1s at Goodwill that ended up being really rare, and I sold for $150, and I paid like $8 for them. And so that was really exciting, and they were my size, and I almost kept them, but I'm not a Jordan 1 person. But if you can find a lot of these sneakers, like the vintage versions or just in general, and it's good to just know about them because they can be super valuable. But some of the really popular sneakers right now are Jordan 1s, Air Force 1s. You know, there's been a lot of collabs in the last year. Dior and Jordan did a collab that's super sought after. Travis Scott and Nike. There's just so much, and there's so much to know in the sneaker world, and I am by no means a sneaker expert, but it is definitely something to look into, keep an eye on, because sneaker trends are really, really big, and people are really into sneakers right now. I love Converse. Converse are like my poison, and I love Comme des Garçons Converse. That collaboration, I own like 6 pair. I also love JW Anderson, which is one of my favorite designers. If you know Loewe, the designer, Lowe. So it looks like low, but it's pronounced Loewe because it's Spanish. But anyway, JW Anderson is the creative director for Loewe, and he also has his own brand, and he did a collaboration with Converse, and I love JW Anderson Converse as well. And so Converse are really big, and they've done collaborations, so if you can keep an eye out for those. But I'm just rambling at this point. Sneakers are big. Pay attention to sneakers. My next trend point is vintage sweaters and cardigans and sweater vests. Now, I touched on this a little bit from when I talked about Y2K, but just vintage sweaters in general of all different types are still really big. Everything from, like, if you can find vintage, oversized, funky print grandpa sweaters, easy $30. Or they would look great and they're super comfortable for yourself. Those are really, really in right now. Vintage cardigans. If you can find, you know, cardigans from the 90s or the early 2000s with the faux fur, or the big collars, or ribbed, or stuff like that. Cottagecore is still a really big thing. So if you can find those vintage sweaters that are like pastel knits with little patterns, or trees, or people, or whatever. Really, really big. And the last one, I think, perhaps is the biggest right now, and that is sweater vests. If you can get vintage, oversized sweater vests, people are all over them, including myself. I never thought I'd think sweater vests were cool, but here I am. Especially big, oversized ones. People will wear them if they can get them big enough, even as like dresses or like tunic, like really long sweaters with skirts. I really enjoy wearing sweater vests over like a turtleneck long sleeve. I think it looks really, really nice. And they're definitely more casual and not dressy as you might, you know. When I used to think sweater vest, I used to think like old substitute teacher wearing like a not matching sweater vest and a dress shirt. And that's really not. I'm going to pop up some style inspiration with really cool sweater vest outfits that I've seen, including one of my own. That brings me to my 9th point, which is mesh tops. Mesh or super form fitting shirts that are, you know, really cool patterns and prints. These are super big right now, and it's kind of that there's all sorts of things that are like trends that are coinciding with each other right now. There's super baggy, oversized, you know, Billie Eilish sweatsuit, really, really big, chunky knit stuff, which I personally like. And then there's the really form-fitting, really small, mini, short, I'm not going to say promiscuous, but like just really flattering form-fitting things that are also really popular. And there's also this like combination of the two where there's like this gray area in the middle, and that's where I really, really like and like find inspiration for my own personal style. But mesh tops are huge right now. Printed mesh tops, turtleneck mesh tops, semi-sheer mesh tops, and along with that, like lace bralettes and lace corsets are also really, really popular in that kind of same realm of things, and people will wear them underneath, you know, a ginormous jacket. Like they'll wear just like a lace bustier top with a men's size 3X suit jacket on top, buttoned to make it look like a dress with a pair of heels, and that's like a going out outfit. And so that's just a really interesting trend in my opinion that kind of epitomizes this like back and forth in this specific trend area. And now that brings me to my last trend, which is really what I just said on accident, but that is playing in extremes. And now what I mean by that is kind of what I just mentioned. It's that gray area between super tight and super oversized, where people will do a little bit of both, which I think is a super flattering way to dress, and I think it's a super different and new way to dress, because I think in the past, people have kind of gone between one extreme and another, and right now in fashion, I think we're living both simultaneously. We're living in a world where both super high-waisted jeans and super low-waisted jeans are trendy at the same time, where people are dressing in hyper-masculine clothing while also other people are dressing in hyper-feminine clothing, and those two things are coinciding along with the movement of like the unisex clothing movement, which I love. I think clothing should represent one's expression, whether that be like self-expression or gender expression, whatever it is. I think clothing should act as like the means of expressing who you want to be and how you want others to see yourself. And that's how I have kind of come about creating my own personal style. It has really become the way that I express myself to the world and how I kind of create the way that other people see me, and people can kind of know who I am without even like getting to know me, just by looking at how I dress and how I present myself confidently to the world. And so that is my 10 Gen Z, TikTok, young person trends right now that you need to know about to be on top of fashion and the fashion industry. I hope this video was helpful. If you want to see more, you can always hit that bell notification and subscribe to my channel to be notified when I post a new video. I would appreciate if you liked this video and if you came back for more in the future. But thank you for watching and have a good one, guys. Bye.